today titled Demonstration of NeuroWorks 7.0. Today's session, I want to clarify, it's going to be a demonstration. I'm not going to be spending much time going into the technical details of how to configure each and every feature. Where possible, I will. As always, whenever we release a new version of software, the items that we've added to the software are always captured in our release notes. And if you're not familiar with the release notes, you can always go to the Start button, Programs, Excel Tech, and select Release Notes. The release notes itemize all of the changes that are part of the new version, and it's broken down between our sleep product, SleepWorks, and then also the EEG product, NeuroWorks. There's a nice listing there of all the changes that we've added, and oftentimes you'll find the latest information in there in terms of how to set up a new feature and how to utilize them to their maximum functions. I've organized our session today into 4 categories. So basically, I want to first talk about some of the database changes or improvements that we've done. Then I'm going to talk about some hardware changes that we've done, and then I'm going to spend some time talking about review. And then finally, I want to talk about or introduce you to the ICU touchscreen. So first off, I'm going to show you the database. And what we've done in 7.0, in the left-hand side, you'll see at the top here, there's a vertical bar that says All, and then PAT, which stands for Patient. And there's basically a listing of letters here. It's basically a Rolodex. So if you just click on any one of the letters, it will display patients by last name according to that letter. So it's just a quick way of just retrieving patient records. I'm going to click on All to display all the patients again. In this version of software, there's another option that's called Patients, PAT. And what this does, if we look at the current record right now, we see that there are 20. I'm looking at the bottom here. It says under studies listed, there's 28 of 28 studies showing. If we click on the Patient button, and now have a look at the bottom, it's now showing 23 of 28. All right, that's right there. When you switch to Patient View, what it does is displays all of the patient records, but only one. So if you've got a patient called Ron Jackson, and Ron Jackson came in and had 4 studies done in your lab, when you're looking at the database window, if you want to look at unique records only, or unique patients only, you would click on this Patient button, and it'll shorten your list so that you can see only unique patients. So, and we've called this approach centralizing or making your database a little more patient-centric so that you're only looking at unique patient records. So hopefully that'll make life a little bit easier for you if you are trying to do some querying of the database. I'm just going to show you the query option. It's not something new that's part of version 7, but I think in talking to a lot of people may not be aware of the querying and the reporting possibilities that are available. If you go up into Tools, there's an option here that says Export to Excel. So when you're utilizing these queries here, I'm going to put another query on top and just say, show me the EEG studies for unique patients only. All right? So you can query this list using your search filter in here, and then if you like, you go up to Tools and go to Export to Excel, and it says, which studies would you like to export? Selected studies, none were selected. Here we go. Just going to hold the Control button, Tools, Export, the selected studies, click OK, and here we go. So all our studies are in Excel right now. So if you want to do some reporting later on the patient records in your database, you can do so, and you can export them into an Excel file, for example. If you don't have Excel installed, it'll just export it to a Notepad file. You can save it as a CSV, comma separated value type of file, and then you can import that file into Excel, or you can import it into another database if you like, and do additional reporting on that. If you're looking at all the patient records, another option is I'm just going to sort this by start time, for example. Another option is to right-click on the patient record or the study record, and there's a filter here that says show all studies for the selected patient. All right, and it's just a quick way to quickly view all the study records for that one particular patient. If we go up into Tools, I'm just going to click on All. If we go up into Tools and Options, down here we've added a section called Display Options. Here's where you can customize your database a little further if you want to change the format of your date, for example. If you want to change your font to something different, and you can change the font size. Let's see, change this to 14, for example. Click Apply. All right. So you've seen our date format has changed, our font style and size has changed as well. All right, so if we go into an individual patient record, I'm just going to click on the Info button. You'll notice that on the patient form here at the bottom, there's a field that says Study Directory. Study Directory basically identifies the location of where all the study files for this particular study are stored. What's new here is there's a button at the very end, and if you click on this button, left-click on it once, it will open up a folder containing all of the study files relating to this particular patient. Why is this useful? It provides you with just quick access to the patient contents. If you have a number of report documents that you've generated, or maybe you've attached some documents to this patient, and you're looking for a quick way just to access them, you want to see them in this view, or you want to copy and paste them somewhere, it just provides you with a quick way of doing things versus trying to navigate to this menu and trying to understand what this file name is. So it's a lot easier to work with using that button there. There were some fields that were missing in the database window here, such as weight, body mass index, and height. So we've added a few more fields to this column here. You have the ability in sleep and in the EEG to add fields from your report. So any kind of a field a calculated field that you would generate in a report, you can add that field and have it show up in the patient record in the actual database window. But similarly, it's available for EEG as well. Only in EEG there really aren't any calculated values. It's more or less just text boxes and fields of information. But those fields of information, anything that's on your patient info form or study record, can now be added to this database window if it's not there currently. We've also added another amplifier to our family of amplifiers. This one is called the NeuroLink IP, and it can record up to 256 channels. It is IP-based. It does have an optional pulse oximeter as well, and it's something that's used normally in long-term monitoring for grid patients, and it does require version 7 or higher in order to work with this box. So this is another option. Some of you may already have this box, or those of you who are looking to expand the number of channels to 256, and also this has a higher sampling rate as well. This samples up to 2,000. There's another slide here I've added for supporting additional amplifiers. In version 6, we added the ability to use these amplifiers with the XLTech system. The issue was with these channels here. The top row are X channels, the bottom row are Y channels. So the first input is X1, the bottom input is Y1. The next one is X2, Y2. So in version 6, you could only use those two channels together. So in other words, if you wanted to use any of these X channels as an EEG channel, as a referential channel, you couldn't necessarily, because this channel is always referenced to the channel input below it. This channel is always referenced to that channel. The next one is referenced to the bottom. So this was something this is how it was in version 6. But in version 7 now, if you want to use your top row channels and you want to reference them to your reference channel, which might be this one here, or this one over here, you can in version 7. Version 7 also allows you to utilize USB microphones. And if anyone is using the EMU 128 fast sampling amplifier, you're now able to calculate an accurate impedance measurement. Okay, we're going to go into review in a moment. I just want to make a comment about persist magic marker. So if anyone has persist magic marker installed on their system, which is persist magic marker is not an Excel Tech product, but if someone is using it, we've now integrated it a little more seamlessly within the NeuroWorks application. So you can actually launch the persist application from within NeuroWorks. So it almost looks like that it's all part of the NeuroWorks application. You now have the ability to save your layout or save a workspace. So if you want your annotation viewer to be located on the right-hand side of the screen, for example, okay, and you want your trend window to be a little larger, you can save this layout by going to your workflow toolbar, and there's an icon here that says workspaces. If I left click on it, the first time we're saving this workspace, and so I'm going to click on save workspace as. I'm going to type in, I'm going to say this is Franco Review. This is my workspace. I have the option to save it in a common location, which means that this workspace is going to make its way over to all the other machines on the network so that I can have this workspace loaded on other machines. Or if you only want it local to this machine, you click on local. Alright, and let's make another workspace where I don't have any trend bars and no annotation viewers. Eliminate that. And I just want, let me eliminate one more toolbar. Alright, and I'm going to save this as a workspace. And I'm going to call this full trace window. Okay. So now, whenever I want to load any workspace, I can go up here and I can load Franco Review, which will bring back my original layout. And I can go up here and change again, go back to full trace window. If I decide to make any additional changes, such as removing the grid lines, for example, and I want to save this again, if I want to create a new workspace, I'll click on Save As. But if I just want to overwrite this one, I'm just going to click on Save Workspace. We've added a new feature to the channel labeler. Let's go to the channel labeler. This version of software allows you to adjust or control the size of the grid on your screen. To demonstrate, I'm going to add a grid. Let's add a 3x4 grid. And you'll see in the Grid Properties window, there is a parameter here that says size. The size allows you to adjust how large you want the grid to appear on your screen. You can adjust the grid between 30 up to 200%. So if we use the up and down arrow keys here and change it to a lower number, I'm going to click Apply, and you'll see the resulting change on the grid. Alternately, you can click in the box and you can type in a number and click Apply. I'm going to click OK. Let's just move our grid. Another way to adjust the size of your grid is to use the scroll wheel on your mouse while pressing down the control button on your keyboard. So I'm going to press my control button and I'm going to move the scroll wheel on my mouse in one direction. And you'll see the corresponding changes. Moving the scroll wheel in the alternate direction has the opposite effect. If you release the control button and simply use the scroll wheel on your mouse, you'll notice that that rotates the grid in either direction, depending on which way you're scrolling with your mouse. To bring up the Grid Properties window, double-click on the grid. Okay. If you're used to using channel sets, you know that channel sets can be activated by pressing the control button plus one of the keys. Channel sets as you know, allow you to group your channels and put them into various groups. I'm just going to create one channel set, for example, just to refresh your memory in case you don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to just select this group of channels here, right-click and go to Multiple, and I'm going to make these part of set 2. And I'm going to make these part of, just say, left EKG. I'll make this part of set 3. All right, click OK. So now on my keyboard, you can't see this, but I'm pressing the Control 2 button, which will display that group of channels. My Control 3 button I'm pressing, which displays EKG. And my Control 1 button will bring back all the channels, because all my channels belong to channel set 1. All right, now channel sets are not new in version 7, but what is new is previously you were only able to create 4 channel sets, but now you can create 8 channel sets. Speaking of channel sets, there is another button that was added to the workflow toolbar, and basically it allows you to display a set number of channels on your screen. So I'm just going to left click on this once, and I'm going to say show me 6 channels. So I can say show me 6 channels. I can click on button again to bring back all the channels. I can say show me 8 channels, show me 24 channels, or show me 64 channels. So it's really just a quick way to quickly group your channels if you don't want to use channel sets. All right, if we go into our settings for QEEG, all right, this is where we can add our plots to our trend window. I'm going to click on the QEEG button. There's an additional option in here called Events. You can set triggers for QEEG analysis. So for example, I'm going to click on Add, and I want to create an event note called when BSI is greater than 0.15. All right, and I'm going to add this. All right, there's the event. And basically, the rule that I want to create is if it's greater than 0.05, I can change this, of course, to any value you want. And I'm going to click on, it has to meet that condition for, let's say, at least 2 seconds. And I'm going to click on Detect All Events. So you can set trigger points based on your trends. I'm going to click OK now. OK, let's go back to our window here. And let's look in our annotation viewer. And let's locate the BSI tag. All right, so it's basically, it's like another form of event detection. It's an event detector. So it's an event detector that's based on your trends. Now, we're looking at the annotation viewer. There's some big changes in the annotation viewer in version 7. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes on this to show you. All right, so first of all, the annotation viewer, and you can left-click on the column title, and you can sort by the column. All right, so left-clicking on time sorts by time, left-clicking on the title sorts by title. All right. In case you weren't already aware of this, if you right-click, you can always export text, the contents of your annotation viewer. There's a filter button here in the annotation viewer. But something else that you'll notice down here now is that there are additional tabs. Okay, so you've got tabs, you've got different views of the annotation viewer. So for example, when we're looking at all, we're looking at all events. And this is grayed out because we can't change this. It's hard-coded now. But if you want to look at a filtered view of the annotation, you can click on Filtered, and we can create a specific filtered view. So let's go here, and let's say we want to create one called Rhythmic Burst. All right? So there's my Rhythmic Burst view. You click on All, it takes us back to all of them. A filter takes us just to the Rhythmic Burst. By default, we've also included ones for events. We've included by default ones for spike. There's one here called info. These are all your patient comments. Now, if you wanted to create one yourself, you can do so by clicking on this last button here. And let's say I wanted to create one called rhythmic burst. Click OK. All right, so here's our rhythmic burst. It brings up a full filter. I'm going to remove everything, and I'm going to look specifically for rhythmic burst. All right, so if I go back to all, and I go to rhythmic burst, you now have a customized tab for your annotation viewer. And remember, you can sort by the column as well. So if you want to do any kind of mass deletions, for example, that's possible. So if I went back to all, I could sort, for example, and I could say, oh, you know what, let me delete this group of Axol spikes. Don't agree with them. You just click on the delete button, and that will delete. Now I'm going to move back to the database. I want to show you a couple things in reports. In the patient info window, if I go to click on the info button, and I go to physician's report, at the top now you'll notice there's a toolbar. It's a formatting toolbar. So if you decide to type something in here, all right, patient, you can apply formatting changes to this. Bold, you can change the font, and this will make its way back into the report when you generate the report. There's another button on this toolbar, it's right over here, that allows you to save your comment. So let me show you an example here. So if I say patient has a history of depression, go up here where the save button is, click save, and I'm going to say the depression history. Save. Okay, so I'm going to close this. Let's say I have another patient. I go into the info button. Next time, those comments will be available in here by clicking on this icon here. So if I click on depression history, it saves the whole thing. If you have additional comments, put in a few beforehand. So you can start to build your report by just clicking on the drop-down and adding some comments that you may consider standard comments that you normally make in a report. All right? So you type in your comment, you save it, and then it stores it in the drop-down menu. And we call these comment paragraphs. If your report is configured to display what's in the report section, this will show up in your report under the report section. I want to talk about the ICU touchscreen. We now have a special monitor. It's a standard touchscreen monitor, and basically allows you to operate the NeuroWorks software using a touch screen. So in other words, it's the same software. The software really hasn't changed that much. The only difference is now you can start to use your fingers to activate the buttons on the screen. This might be helpful if you are in an ICU lab, for example, if you're in surgery or something, and you don't want to be busy with the keyboard. You can still use the keyboard, you can still use the mouse, but the ICU Touch allows you to also use your fingers to browse about the screen. Now, in order to enable the ICU Touch, what you need to do first is, in your database window, you go to Tools, Options, and in the Options tab, at the bottom here, there's an option that says Use ICU Touchscreen. If I check this, you also have a few options here where you can customize whether or not to use Natus Trend Summary in your review window, or you can use Persist Magic Marker if you're using that. You can also set this up to do something automatically. So for example, if you say after 1 minute of inactivity, I want you to switch back to the live window. So if you go on the touch screen and you activate the trends window because you want to see trends, and then you walk away, but you want it to return to live mode after 1 minute or 2 minutes or whatever time, you can set that up over here. So it's kind of a neat feature there. Again, it's just minimizing the amount of time that you need to be right at the screen and clicking away to get what you want. Now, when you enable the ICU touchscreen, there's a third-party software that gets installed in your computer that comes with the touchscreen monitor. So this software, in combination with some of the Windows components, it ends up making the font size on your screen a lot bigger and a little easier for you to navigate with your fingers. So just overall, a number of changes will become evident on screen that just makes it easier for Activate and to use the software with your fingers. So to demonstrate, I'm going to show you this video, and this is really the last piece of our presentation. And so here we have the screen. We just clicked on New EEG. We're typing in, using the keyboard, typing in our patient name. You'll notice all you need to do is type in the first and the last name. So it's kind of a shortened version of the patient info screen. All right, and it allows you to quickly start the study. On the left-hand side right now, what you see up here are a number on the left-hand side there. You'll see a number of new icons that you wouldn't have seen before. This is only available in ICU touch mode. And basically, each of these icons represent functions from your workflow toolbar. It just makes it easier, just quick shortcut ways to access the functions. So with our fingers, we can activate functions like impedance. We can activate the camera. We can end impedance. There might be a time delay between what I'm saying to you and what you're seeing on screen. But the video essentially just displays several examples of how you can use the touchscreen to work your way around the software. You can scroll across the screen using your finger, just click and dragging. You can change montages. Basically, you can do anything really. You may notice in the video that the font size is also larger in the menu bar there. So any function that is normally available is available for you by touch as well. And we're adding custom notes. Tapping twice is the equivalent of double-clicking. The last video frame is just an image of the database window. All right, but I hope that video gave you an idea of what you can expect to see with the ICU touchscreen. Okay, so at this point, if you have any questions, I invite you to take a moment and just chat your question or your comment in the chat box. Do you have any changes in the Exchange software? Exchange software is really status quo. We don't call it Exchange anymore. We call it Natus or Natus Data Share. So that's still available. Really, the only difference is we've changed the name from Exchange to Natus Data Share. All right then, everyone. Thank you for joining today. And like I said, please email me if you have any additional questions or suggestions for future topics, or if you simply want to provide some feedback on the presentation. I hope it was helpful to you and that you were able to learn something useful. Have a great holiday. Bye for now.